Hello mixtresses and mixters, this is mixtressrae. You're watching Mixtress video. So I'm going to do, as you can see in the title, obviously, a deep dive of the Smithwaite. So I have never read the Pictorial Key to the Tarot. So this is going to be interesting. It's going to be sort of my first impressions of the writings of Arthur Edward Waite, because I recently, like within the last year recently, I bought the Centennial set that had this book, the sort of biography of Pamela Coleman Smith, and postcards and the Centennial, but it was a knockoff. The Centennial was a knockoff, so I was going to return it. It was used anyway. I was going to return it, but a super sweet, I think she's a patron. Yeah, super sweet patron, Maddie. She said, I want to gift you the Centennial. And so she sent it to me. So I now kind of have a mishmash of the Centennial because of her. So thank you. So I decided to keep the rest of the set. And I even kept the knockoff version of the deck. I just use it for collaging and things now. So, not that you guys care about any of that, but let's just get into this. I've decided, as you can see where the bookmark is here, I decided to skip the first 71 pages of this. It's just a whole bunch of introductory chapter stuff. And I feel like if we read that, because I started with this, so this is the very beginning of the book. The pathology of the poet says that the undevout astronomer is mad. The pathology of the very plain man says that genius is mad. And between these extremes, which stand for 10,000 analogous excesses, the sovereign reason takes the part of a moderator and does what it can. I sort of just spaced off and got confused by that sentence, and so I was like, you know what, let's not. Besides, I'm not going to read 70 pages of content. So even though the series is called Real Deep, I am not always, nor have I already always, been reading the entirety of guidebooks. But I decided I'm going to start, and I am going to read the content of... So each of the majors has 2 pages. And then once we get to the minors, they have a paragraph of description and then keywords. So my plan is I'm going to read all of the majors and I'm going to read the description in the minors, but not the keywords. That's my thought anyway. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read you directly from the Pictorial Key to the Tarot, which, hey, let's look and see copyrights and stuff. I didn't look at that. I'm assuming that's going to be in here. Illustrations from the blah, blah, blah. Copyright 1971. Smithwaite Tarot's registered, blah, blah, blah. No part of this. Okay, so are you not going to tell me when the Pictorial Key to the Tarot was first published? Because that's what I want to know. I'm assuming it would have been around 1909 when the tarot was published, right? But did we have that information anywhere? That annoys me that information is not. I might just not know where to look for it in this book. Just looking at see if it's, this information is at the end. Okay, that's annoying. But you could probably look it up if you wanted to. I'm assuming that this would have been kind of the guide that came out concurrently with the deck originally, which the deck was originally published in 1909, right? The very, very first version of it. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. Zoom into the cards. All right. Like my little crocheted doily. My mom just gave it to me. She's been like helping someone with like an estate sale thing that's like a multi-week, super involved process. And she gave me this cool little crochet thing. Okay. The trumps major and their inner symbolism. Okay. The magician. A youthful figure in the robe of a magician, having the countenance of divine Apollo. I know nothing about Greek mythology. I mean, I guess not nothing. There's a bunch of A names, like Apollo, Artemis, and Aphrodite. Right? Yep. And Athena. Lots of A names. Okay. Having the countenance of divine Apollo, with smile of confidence and shining eyes. I don't know how shining his eyes are, but okay. Above his head is the mysterious sign of the Holy Spirit, the sign of life, like an endless cord, forming the figure 8 in a horizontal position. So it doesn't even mention that it's a limnoscate. Interesting. About his waist is a serpent cincture. Cincture. Never seen that word. The serpent appearing to devour its own tail. This is familiar to most as a conventional symbol of eternity, but here it indicates more especially the eternity of attainment in the spirit. In the magician's right hand is a wand raised towards heaven, while the left hand is pointing to the earth. This dual sign is known in very high grades of the instituted mysteries. Capitalized instituted mysteries. That means it's official. It shews the descent of grace, virtue, and light, drawn from things above and derived to things below. The suggestion throughout is therefore the possession and communication of the powers and gifts of the spirit. On the table in front of the magician are the symbols of the 4 tarot suits, signifying the elements of natural life, which lie like counters before the adept, and he adapts them as he wills. Beneath are roses and lilies, the flos campi and lilium convallium changed into garden flowers to shew. What does that mean, to shew? Like to portray, to symbolize the culture of aspiration. This card signifies the divine motive in man, reflecting God, the will in the liberation of its union, and that which is above. I feel like I'm reading from the fucking Bible right now or something. It is also the unity of individual being on all planes, and in a very high sense, it is thought, in the fixation thereof. With further reference to what I have called the sign of life and its connection with the number 8, it may be remembered that Christian Gnosticism speaks of rebirth in Christ as a change unto the Ogdod. The mystic number is termed Jerusalem above, the land flowing with milk and honey, the Holy Spirit in the land of the Lord. According to Martinism, 8 is the number of Christ. I feel like that got a little convoluted. That's what I think. Okay, let's move on to the High Priestess. The reason why I did the Magician first is because that's the way it does it in this book. Fool is listed last in the majors, so I know I don't need to rearrange everything, but I kind of want to, so I'm going to. Okay. She has the lunar crescent at her feet, a horned diadem on her head. Whatever that is. I mean, that's just the, the triple moon cross, right? Never seen the word diadem. D-I-A-D-E-M. With a globe in the middle place. A globe in the middle place. Oh, on her crown. I guess that's supposed to be, does that mean it's supposed to be like a world? Since it's called a globe? Whatever. And a large solar cross on her breast. Solar? Okay. The scroll in her hands is inscribed with the word Torah, signifying the greater law, the secret law, and the second sense of the word. It is partly covered by her mantle, to shew that some things are implied and some spoken. Okay. Some implied and some spoken. Weird, okay. She is seated between the white and black pillars, J and B, of the mystic temple, and the veil of the temple is behind her. It is embroidered with palms and pomegranates. The vestments are flowing and gauzy, and the mantle suggests light, a shimmering radiance. Shimmering radiance. Okay. So it's basically just I know they always call it a veil, but a veil to me implies transparency, and you can't really see through that, right? So to me, it just looks like a tapestry hanging on the pillars. She has been called occult science. Oh, has she? High priestess, aka occult science. Did you guys know? On the threshold of the sanctuary of Isis, but she is really the secret church. The house which is of God and man. She represents also the second marriage of the prince who is no longer of this world. She is the spiritual bride and mother, the daughter of the stars in the higher Garden of Eden. She is all things. Mother, garden, mother, daughter, queen, mother, bride. She is, in fine, the queen of the borrowed light, but this is the light of all. She is the moon nourished by the milk of the supernal mother. Supernal. Was that supposed to say supernatural? I don't know. Adventure in words from 1909. In a manner, she is also the supernal mother herself. That is to say, she is the bright reflection. It is in this sense of reflection that her truest and highest name in Bolism is Shekinah, the cohabiting glory. According to Kabbalism, there is a Shekinah both above and below. In the superior world, it is called Bina, the supernal understanding, which reflects to the emanations that are beneath. In the lower world, it is Malkuth, that world being, for this purpose, understood as a blessed kingdom, that with which it is made blessed, being the indwelling glory. I just want to read this like a fucking televangelist preacher. Mystically speaking, the Shekinah, I don't know how you're supposed to say that, is the spiritual bride of the just man. When he reads the law, she gives the divine meaning. There are some respects in which this card is the highest and holiest of the greater arcana. Okay, I don't know how much value I'm going to get out of this, but I do think, being that most of the tarot decks I use are based on the Rider-Waite-Smith, and this deck I do probably reach for some version of this deck I reach for more than any other deck. So I should probably know the original meanings intended by Arthur Edward Waite. But the thing with me so far is that I feel like I'm not going to understand any of this really. You know what I mean? But hey, let's plow on, shall we? The Empress, a stately figure, seated, having rich vestments and royal aspect, as of a daughter of heaven and earth. The diadem is of 12 stars. Okay, I'm going to show you this word, just because. Oh, jeez, that was a good one. That was a really good one. That was superior bumping of the tripod. Where diadem, you see that? What the fuck is that word? I should have had a dictionary out while I was, but that would have just made this whole thing take so fucking long. Okay. Her diadem is of 12 stars gathered in a cluster. The symbol of Venus is on the shield which rests near her. So this doesn't even say that common knowledge that the 12 stars on her diadem are that of the 12 signs of the zodiac. Doesn't even say that. So maybe that wasn't the original intended purpose. But that's just a new meaning that we've added to it. The symbol of Venus is on the shield which rests near her. A field of corn is ripening in front of her, and beyond there is a fall of water. The scepter which she bears is surmounted by the globe of this world. She is the inferior Garden of Eden, the earthly paradise. Inferior Garden of Eden? Okay, I don't really like that wording. All that is symbolized by the visible house of man. She is not Regina Coeli, but she is still Refugium Peccatorum, the fruitful mother of thousands. There are also certain aspects in which she has been correctly described as desire, and the wings thereof, as the woman clothed with the sun, as Gloria Mundi, and the veil of the Sanctum Sanctorum. But she is not, I may add, the soul that has attained wings, unless all the symbolism is counted up another and unusual way. She is above all things universal fecundity. Oh my god. And the outer sense of the word. I'm so glad I didn't, like, try to read this beforehand, because then I would have just been like, okay, I'm not doing this. But it's hopefully it's even funnier to you guys that I'm just, like, reacting to this in real time. Okay. This is obvious, because there is no direct message which has been given to man like that which is borne by woman. But she does not herself carry its interpretation. I don't know, that feels kind of like we're witnessing some, like, demeaning woman is less than language going on here. It's like, here is the mother of all things, but, you know, actually she's not that important. Don't worry about it. In another order of ideas, the card of the Empress signifies the door or gate by which an entrance is obtained into this life, as into the Garden of Venus. And then the way which leads out therefrom into that which is beyond is the secret known to the High Priestess. It is communicated by her to the elect. To the elect? Like, you have to, like, is that a gateway? Is this a gatekeeping card? That's not how I see the Empress. Most old attributions of this card are completely wrong on the symbolism. Okay, now we know how you feel about it. A.E. Waite. As, for example, its identification with the Word, divine nature, the triad, and so forth. Okay, so So A.E. Waite is essentially saying, like in this last portion, if I'm interpreting it correctly, he does not believe that the Empress is divine nature. And the triad, I don't know what the triad's supposed to symbolize in this case, but, like, the first thing that comes to my mind is, you know, Maiden, Mother, and Crone. So we're not supposed to, like, he definitely doesn't want to give the Empress, you know, okay, here's my interpretation of this. Totally my interpretation. Probably not real. But my thought is he described what he wanted for this card. You know, if we are to, like, believe that this tarot deck came about the way that is our conventional knowledge, which is that he dictated what he wanted from the card symbolism, and then Pixie made the artwork to reflect that. My thought is that whenever she created this fucking resplendent, gorgeous, beautiful Mother Nature Empress, he was, like, kind of pissed off. Like, I don't know, she's a little too cool. I didn't want her to be that cool. So then he wrote in the guidebook shit to, like, take away some of her power because he was afraid of her power. I don't know, I kind of like that, though. Good on you, Pixie. I mean, it's really her artwork that makes this deck. You know, it's not what fucking A.E. Waite wrote, since no one reads this shit, right? Anyway, the Emperor. He has a form of the crux ansata for his scepter and a globe in his left hand. He is a crowned monarch, commanding, stately, seated on a throne, the arms of which are fronted by ram's heads. He is executive and realization, executive realness. The power of this world, here clothed with the highest of its natural attributes. He is occasionally represented as seated on a cubic stone, which, however, confuses some of the issues. He is the viral power to which the Empress responds, and in this sense is he who seeks to remove the veil of Isis, yet she remains Virgo intacta. What? So, this to me sounds like the Emperor wants to deflower the High Priestess, which, I got news for you, Emperor, she ain't a virgin. But don't worry, guys, she remains Virgo intacta. I assume that means intact virgin, right? It's gotta mean that. Oh my god. I'm sorry if I sound insanely uneducated, because, well, I am. I do not know shit about, like, all of this esoteric crap that we're seeing here. Anyway. God, it's already 20 minutes long. It should be understood that this card and that of the Empress do not precisely represent the condition of married life, though this state is implied. On the surface, as I have indicated, they stand for mundane royalty, uplifted on the seats of the mighty. But above this, there is the suggestion of another presence. They signify also, and the male figure especially, the higher kingship, occupying the intellectual throne. Hereof is the lordship of thought rather than of the animal world. Both personalities, after their own manner, are full of strange experience, but theirs is not consciously the wisdom which draws from a higher world. The Emperor has been described as A, will in its embodied form, but this is only one of its applications, and B, as an expression of virtualities contained in the absolute being. But this is fantasy. What the fuck are you talking about, A.E. Waite? Who fucking understands your bullshit? I don't understand your bullshit. Hierophant. He wears the triple crown and is seated between two pillars. I always forget that, like, it's supposed to be a triple crown because, yeah. I mean, I guess just because it's tiers of crown. Triple crown and is seated between two pillars, but they are not those of the temple which is guarded by the high priestess. In his left hand he holds a scepter terminating in the triple cross, and with his right hand he gives the well-known ecclesiastical sign which is called that of esotericism, distinguishing between the manifest and concealed part of doctrine. Okay. It is noticeable in this connection that I just want to point out, just for fun, the way that he spells connection, which obviously just like back in the day, everybody made up their own spellings for things. That's just how it was. That the high priestess, it is noticeable in this connection that the high priestess makes no sign at his feet, because she's not like about all this, like, I don't know, rigid belief structure. That's why she doesn't make some fucking sign that you have to recognize, that you have to know the meaning of. She's not trying to command your bullshit like the Hierophant is. At his feet are the crossed keys, and two priestly ministers in albs kneel before him. Albs? I guess that's like the name of the type of dress that they're wearing. He has been usually called the Pope, which is a particular application of the more general office that he symbolizes. He is the ruling power of external religion, as the high priestess is a prevailing genius of the esoteric, withdrawn power. The proper meanings of this card have suffered woeful admixture from nearly all hands. Grand Orient says truly that the Hierophant is the power of the keys, esoteric orthodox doctrine, and the outer side of the life which leads to the doctrine. But he is certainly not the prince of occult doctrine, as another commentator has suggested. He's trolling the comments right now. You don't have to, like, I don't know, just this whole, like, he's not this, guys. Like, people are dumb. I'm not dumb. He is rather the summa totius theologiae, which it has passed into the utmost rigidity of expression, but he symbolizes also all things that are righteous and sacred on the manifest side. As such, he is the channel of grace belonging to the world of institution as distinct from that of nature, and he is the leader of salvation for the human race at large. He is the order and the head of the recognized hierarchy, which is the reflection of another and greater hierarchic order. But it may so happen that the pontiff forgets the significance of this, his symbolic state, and acts as if he contained within his proper measures all that his sign signifies or his symbol seeks to shew forth. I have no idea what any of that means. He is not, okay, here we go. Here's some more sass from A.E. Waite. He is not, as it has been thought, philosophy, except on the theological side. He is not inspiration, and he is not religion, although he is a mode of its expression. Like, the end of all of these descriptions so far, just like, if you read if you like take out the last 1 or 2 sentences of all of these descriptions so far, it seems a little bit more clear, but it's almost like the very last sentence or two just makes it more confusing. Okay. This is fun though. I'm laughing so hard that tears are streaming down my face. The Lovers. My birth card. Hold on, I need a sip of coffee before we go on. I'm gonna have to switch to water or something soon because my coffee's almost gone. Okay. The sun shines in the zenith, and beneath is a great winged figure with arms extended, pouring down influences. In the foreground are 2 human figures, male and female, unveiled before each other, as if Adam and Eve when they first occupied the paradise of the earthly body. Behind the man is the tree of life, bearing 12 fruits, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil is behind the woman. The serpent is twining round it. The figures suggest youth, virginity, innocence, and love before it is contaminated by gross material desire. Gross material desire. This is, in all simplicity, the card of human love, here exhibited as part of the way, the truth, and the life. It replaces, by recourse to first principles, the old card of marriage, which I have described previously, and the later follies, which depicted man between vice and virtue. In a very high sense, the card is a mystery of the covenant and Sabbath. The suggestion in respect of the woman is that she signifies that attraction towards the sensitive life which carries within it the idea of the fall of man, but she is rather the working of a secret law of providence than a willing and conscious temptress. Okay. It is through her imputed lapse that man shall arise ultimately, and only by her can he complete himself. Okay. The card is therefore in its way another intimation concerning the great mystery of womanhood. The old meanings fall to pieces of necessity with the old pictures, but even as interpretations of the latter, some of them were of the order of commonplace and others were false in symbolism. So, despite the fact that A.E. Waite right now in 2021 is coming off as very sexist to me, he was probably progressive for his time. Some of those comments right there and the fact that he does consider the high priestess to be important, it seems. He has some sort of personal vendetta against the Empress. I mean, that might be some Freudian hating your mother shit, maybe. I don't know. The Chariot, an erect and princely figure carrying a drawn sword and corresponding, broadly speaking, to the traditional description which I have given in the first part. What? Okay. On the shoulders of the victorious hero... Oh, okay. I think that's referring back to... There was like a little... Okay. So, maybe I should be reading these instead? So, I don't know why there's these different sections, but there was a section earlier in the book that has little paragraphs of each of the major arcana, and I did skip over that. I wonder if I should be reading those instead. Are those better? Oh, guys. Okay, I'm just going to continue on the path that I've been on. This is just going to make it way too fucking long if I go back and read those little paragraphs too. But I think that's what he's referring to there. On the shoulders of the victorious hero are supposed to be the Urim and Thummim. He has led what? On the shoulders? I guess it's these like little moon faces. He has led captivity captive. He is conquest on all planes, in the mind, in science, in progress, in certain trials of initiation. He has thus replied to the Sphinx, and it is on this account that I have accepted the variation of Eliphas Levi. 2 sphinxes thus draw his chariot. He is above all things triumph in the mind. It is to be understood for this reason, A, that the question of the Sphinx is concerned with a mystery of nature and not of the world of grace, to which the charioteer could offer no answer. B, that the planes of his conquest are manifest or external and not within himself. C, that the liberation which he effects may leave himself in the bondage of the logical understanding. D, that the tests of initiation through which he has passed in triumph are to be understood physically or rationally. And E, that if he came to the pillars of that temple between which the high priestess is seated, he could not open the scroll called Torah, nor if she questioned him could he answer. He is not hereditary royalty, and he is not priesthood. Okay. Okay. Strength, or fortitude, a woman over whose head there broods the same symbol of life which we have seen in the card of the magician, is closing the jaws of a lion. The only point in which this design differs from the conventional presentations is that her beneficent fortitude has already subdued the lion, which is being led by a chain of flowers. For reasons which satisfy myself, this card has been interchanged with that of justice. I kind of like that. For reasons which satisfy myself. I did it for me, and for me only. Has been interchanged with that of justice, which is usually numbered 8. As the variation carries nothing with it which will signify to the reader, there is no cause for explanation. Just deal with it. I made it 8. Deal with it. Fortitude, in one of its most exalted aspects, is connected with the divine mystery of union. The virtue, of course, operates in all planes, and hence draws on all in its symbolism. It connects also with innocentia inviolata. Again, that to me sounds like some, innocent virgin child language to me. Innocentia inviolata. And with the strength which resides in contemplation. These higher meanings are, however, so this almost carries like a celibate virginal quality to the strength card. Like, if you are a woman, you are strong if you do not have of the sex. I don't like that, but I'll forget immediately anyway, so it's fine. These higher meanings are These higher meanings are, however, matters of inference, and I do not suggest that they are transparent on the surface of the card. Okay, all right. They are intimated in a concealed manner by the chain of flowers, which signifies, among many other things, the sweet yoke and the light burden of divine law, when it has been taken into the heart of hearts. The card has nothing to do with self-confidence in the ordinary sense, though this has been suggested, but it concerns the confidence of those whose strength is God, who have found their refuge in Him. Wow, this is so much more religious than I realized. I mean, they're even like capitalizing him like they do in like Bible texts and shit. There is one aspect in which the lion signifies the passions, and who is called strength is the higher nature in its liberation. It has walked upon the asp and the basilisk and has trodden down the lion and the dragon. Okay, this is an eye-opening experience for sure. All right, what do we think about the Hermit AE weight? The variation from the conventional models in this card is only that the lamp is not enveloped partially in the mantle of its bearer, who blends the idea of the Ancient of Days with the light of the world. It is a star which shines in the lantern. I have said that this is a card of attainment, and to extend this conception, the figure is seen holding up his beacon on an eminence. Therefore, the Hermit is not, as Court de Geblin explained, a wise man in search of truth and justice, nor is he, as a later explanation proposes, an especial example of experience. His beacon intimates that where I am, you also may be. I kind of like that. Where I am, you also may be. It is further a card which is understood quite incorrectly when it is, like the fact that he's just constantly bringing up what the cards aren't. It's like my mom always used to say, she would say what you want. Like, as in, don't say, I don't want this. Rephrase it to what you do want. So that, anyway. It is further a card which is understood quite incorrectly when it is connected with the idea of occult isolation as the protection of personal magnetism against admixture. I do not know what admixture means. This is one of the frivolous renderings which we owe to Eliphas Levi. Okay, so he obviously doesn't like this guy, and I don't know who this guy is. And I'm certain I'm saying his name wrong. It has been adopted by the French order of Martinism, and some of us have heard a great deal of the silent and unknown philosophy enveloped by his mantle from the knowledge of the profane. In true Martinism, the significance of the term philosophe inconnu was of another order. It did not refer to the intended concealment of the instituted mysteries, much less of their substitutes, but, like the card itself, to the truth of the divine mysteries secure their own protection from those who are unprepared. The only thing I'm taking away from this is where I am, you also may be. All right, Wheel of Fortune. In this symbol, I have again followed the reconstruction of life as Levi, who has furnished several variants. It is legitimate, as I have intimated, to use Egyptian symbolism when this serves our purpose, provided that no theory of origin is implied therein. What? I have, however, presented Typhon in his serpent form. The symbolism is, of course, not exclusively Egyptian, as the 4 living creatures of Ezekiel occupy the angles of the card, and the wheel itself follows other indications of Levi in respect of Ezekiel's vision, as illustrative of the particular tarot key. With the French occultist, and in the design itself, the symbolic picture stands for the perpetual motion of the fluidic universe and for the flux of human life. The Sphinx is the equilibrium therein. The transliteration of tarot as rota is inscribed on the wheel, counterchanged with the letters of the divine name, to shew that providence is implied through all. But this is a divine intention within, and the similar intention without is exemplified by the 4 living creatures. Sometimes the Sphinx is represented couchant on the pedestal above, which defrauds the symbolism by stultifying the essential idea of stability amidst movement. Behind the general notion expressed in the symbol, there lies the denial of chance and the fatality which is implied therein. It may be added that, from the days of Levi onward, the occult explanations of this card are, even for occultism itself, of a singularly fatuous kind. It has been said to mean principle, fecundity, viral honor, ruling authority, etc. The findings of common fortune-telling are better than this on their own plane. Oh, guys, I'm regretting everything. Oh my god. I just spaced out during that entire reading. I don't know if you noticed. Justice. As this card follows the traditional symbolism and carries above all its obvious meanings, there is little to say regarding it outside the few considerations collected in the first part to which the reader is referred. All right, you dick. I'll go back to it. All right? It's because you're going to just say a bunch of shit anyway. Why? Why are you putting this in 2 different places? You're rude. Okay, so here's what it says in the other part about justice. Oh my god, no. It's really, really long. Whatever. That the tarot, though it is of all reasonable antiquity, is not of time immemorial, is shewn by this card, which could have been presented in a much more archaic manner. Like, guys, I made it really modern. Those, however, who have gifts of discernment in matters of this kind will not need to be told that age is in no sense of the essence of the consideration. The right of closing the lodge in the 3rd craft grade of masonry may belong to the late 18th century, but the fact signifies nothing. It is still a summary of all the instituted and official mysteries. The female figure of the 11th card is said to be Astrea, who personified the same virtue and is represented by the same symbols. This goddess, notwithstanding the Bulgarian Cupid, the tarot is not of Roman mythology or of Greek either. Its representation of justice is supposed to be one of the 4 cardinal virtues included in the sequence of greater arcana. The 4 cardinal virtues? What are those 4 cardinal virtues then? But as it so happens, the 4th emblem is wanting, and it became necessary for the commentators to discover it at all costs. They did what it was possible to do, and yet the laws of research have never succeeded in extricating the missing Persephone under the form of prudence. You guys, I hate this. I hate it. I really hate it. Like, obviously that's my opinion. Like, some of this, like, esoteric crap, like, if I understood what all of this stuff means, it might be more interesting to me. But as it stands now, I hate it. Okay, you know what? That's the last time. I'm gonna go to the other descriptions, okay? Let's plow on. Holy shit, this is gonna be 3 hours long, and I'm gonna hate every second of it. This parachute is a knapsack. It will be seen, however, that the figure is seated between pillars like the High Priestess, and on this account it seems desirable to indicate that the moral principle which deals unto every man according to his works, while of course it is in strict analogy with higher things, differs in its essence from the spiritual justice which is involved in the idea of election. The latter belongs to a mysterious order of providence, in virtue of which it is possible for certain men to conceive the idea of dedication to the highest things. The operation of this is like the breathing of the spirit where it wills, and we have no canon of criticism or ground of explanation concerning it. It is analogous to the possession of the fairy gifts and the high gifts and the gracious gifts of the poet. We have them or have not, and their presence is as much a mystery as their absence. The law of justice is not, however, involved by either alternative. In conclusion, the pillars of justice open into one world and the pillars of the High Priestess onto another. So, okay. I'm trying to formulate a thought of a comparison between the High Priestess and the Justice card. Like, what? So, the veil here is revealing law and order, right? And the veil in the High Priestess is revealing, Akashic records, more spiritual order. Or lack thereof, right? That's what I'm going to take away from that. The gallows from which he is suspended form a Tau cross, while the figure, from the position of the legs, forms a Filfet cross. There is a nimbus about the head of the seeming martyr. It should be noted, 1, that the tree of sacrifice is living wood, with leaves thereon. 2, that the face expresses deep entrancement, not suffering. And 3, that the figure as a whole suggests life in suspension, but life and not death. It is a card of profound significance, but all the significance is veiled. One of his editors suggested that a life as Levi did not know the meaning, which is unquestionable, nor did the editor himself. Okay. It has been called falsely a card of martyrdom, a card of prudence, a card of the great work, a card of duty, but we may exhaust all published interpretations and find only vanity. I will say very simply on my own part that it expresses the relation in one of its aspects between the divine and the universe. He who can understand that the story of his higher nature is embedded in the symbolism will receive intimations concerning a great awakening that is possible, and will know that after the sacred mystery of death, there is a glorious mystery of resurrection. Okay. All right. Where's my phone? I want to know what time it is. It's 2 p.m. Okay. Guys, I don't know if I'm going to make it. The veil or mask of life is perpetuated in change, transformation, and passage from lower to higher, and this is more fitly represented in the rectified tarot by one of the apocalyptic visions than by the crude notion of the reaping skeleton. Behind it lies the whole world of ascent in the spirit. The mysterious horseman moves slowly, bearing a black banner emblazoned with the mystic rose which signifies life. Okay, that's nice to know that the rose symbolizes life. Between 2 pillars on the verge of the horizon there shines the sun of immortality. The horseman carries no visible weapon, but king and child and maiden fall before him, while a prelate with clasped hands awaits his end. Prelate? There should be no need to point out that the suggestion of death which I have made in connection with the previous card is, of course, to be understood mystically, but this is not the case in the present instance. The natural transit of man to the next stage of his being is or may be one form of his progress, but the exotic and almost unknown entrance, while still in this life, into the state of mystical death is a change in the form of consciousness and the passage into a state to which ordinary death is neither the path nor the gate. The existing occult explanations of the 13th card are, on the whole, better than usual: rebirth, creation, destination, renewal, and the rest. The rest or just rest? The rest. Temperance, a winged angel with the sign of the sun upon his forehead and on his breast, the square and triangle of the septenary. I speak of him in the masculine sense, but the figure is neither male nor female. Okay, then say they. Okay, temperance is they, them pronouns, okay? It is held to be pouring the essence of life from chalice to chalice. It has 1 foot upon the earth and 1 upon waters, thus illustrating the nature of the essence. A direct path goes up to certain heights on the verge of the horizon, and above there is a great light through which a crown is seen vaguely. Okay. Okay. I got it. I never saw that before. Hereof is some part of the secret of eternal life, as it is possible to man in his incarnation. All the conventional emblems are renounced herein. So also are the conventional meanings, which refer to changes in the seasons, perpetual movement of life, and even the combination of ideas. It is, moreover, untrue to say that the figure symbolizes the genius of the sun, though it is the analogy of solar light, realized in the third part of our human triplicity. It is called temperance, fantastically, because when the rule of it obtains in our consciousness, it tempers, combines, and harmonizes the psychic and material natures. Under that rule, we know in our rational parts something of whence we came and whither we are going. Okay. I'm exhausted. I'm seriously, like, religiously triggered by this shit. Like, I feel like I'm in church again, and it's upsetting. And, like, I want to abandon it, but at the same time, every once in a while there's like a little nugget of something that helps my understanding of the cards. So, for that reason, I don't really want to stop. The Devil. The design is an accommodation, mean or harmony between several motives mentioned in the first part. Fuck you, I'm not going back to that part. The horned goat of Mendes, with wings like those of a bat, is standing on an altar. So this isn't, I thought it was Baphomet. It's the horned goat of Mendes. Maybe that is the same thing as Baphomet, who knows? At the pit of the stomach, there is the sign of Mercury. What? The pit of the stomach, the sign of Mercury? I don't see that. I see a belly button. What is he talking about? The right hand is upraised and extended, being the reverse of that benediction which is given by the Hierophant. Ooh, really? How is that the reverse? Because one hand is down? I don't know. I don't know. Being the reverse of that benediction which is given by the Hierophant in the 5th card. In the left hand there is a great flaming torch inverted towards the earth. A reverse pentagram is on the forehead. There is a ring in front of the altar from which 2 chains are carried to the necks of 2 figures, male and female. These are analogous with those of the 5th card, as if Adam and Eve after the fall. Hereof is the chain and fatality of the material life. The figures are tailed to signify the animal nature, but there is human intelligence in the faces, and he who is exalted above them is not to be their master forever. Even now he is also a bondsman, sustained by the evil that is in him, and blind to the liberty of service. With more than his usual derision for the arts which he presented to respect and interpret as a master therein, Eliphas Levi affirms that the Baphometic figure, so the Baphometic figure of the horned goat of Mendes, is occult science and magic. Another commentator suggests that in the divine world it signifies predestination, but there is no correspondence in that world with the things which below are of the brute. What it does signify is the dweller on the threshold without the mystical garden when those are driven forth therefrom who have eaten the forbidden fruit. Okay, so one thing that I am noticing for possibly the first time ever, or, you know, my memory is terrible, so it's possible I've noticed this before. I mean, obviously there's a connection between the lovers and the devil, But I'm also realizing for the first time that her tail has a fruit on it, just like this tree of life or knowledge or whichever one it is. And he's got a flame on his tail, just like that. I don't know why, I've just never noticed that. So there you go. All right, we're almost done. We're almost done with the major arcana. Well, not really, I guess. Oh, guys, I feel like this is never gonna end. Occult explanations attached to this card are meager and mostly disconcerting. It is idle to indicate that it depicts ruin in all its aspects because it bears this evidence on the surface. It is said further that it contains the first allusion to a material building, but I do not conceive that the tower is more or less material than the pillars which we have met with in 3 previous cases. I see nothing to warrant Pappas in supposing that it is literally the fault of Adam, but there is more in favor of his alternative, that it signifies the materialism of the spiritual world. Sorry, materialization of the spiritual world. Word. Fucking fuck. The bibliographer Christian imagines that it is the downfall of the mind seeking to penetrate the mystery of God. I agree rather with Grand Orient that it is the ruin of the house of life, when evil has prevailed therein, and above all that it is the rending of a house of doctrine. I understand that the reference is, however, to a house of falsehood. It illustrates also in the most comprehensive way the old truth that, except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. There is a sense in which the catastrophe is a reflection from the previous card, but not on the side of the symbolism which I have tried to indicate therein. It is more correctly a question of analogy. One is concerned with the fall into the material and animal state, while the other signifies destruction on the intellectual side. The tower has been spoken of as the chastisement of pride and intellect, overwhelmed in the attempt to penetrate the mystery of God. But in neither case do these explanations account for the 2 persons who were the living sufferers. But what about them? The one is the literal word made void, and the other is false interpretation. In yet a deeper sense, it may signify also the end of a dispensation, but there is no possibility here for the consideration of this involved question. So, I don't know what any of that means, but that, to me, makes me think, and hopefully I'll retain this, but who fucking knows, that, you know, something to look at when you're looking at the tower is, instead of just thinking about the disruption and abruption that the tower brings, look more at these 2 people and how 2 people can be a part of the same exact tragic event, and see it totally differently or cope with it totally differently. And you have a choice. Like, this person's writing down with the little potato chip things that are supposed to be like sacred yod something. I don't know. It's supposed to be like a sacred confetti of some kind. And this one over here, the sacred confetti is blocked by this cloud. So this almost makes me think, this person's not going to be okay, but this person is. So maybe if you get the Tower card, a way that you can see hope within it is that you have a choice in how you view the abruption that happens in the Tower. I don't know if that's what he was trying to say or not. I don't know if that's what A.E. Waite was trying to say or not, but that's what I took from that. The star, a great radiant star of 8 rays surrounded by 7 lesser stars, also of 8 rays. The female figure in the foreground is entirely naked. Her left knee is on the land and her right foot upon the water. She pours water of life from 2 great ewers, irrigating sea and land. Behind her is rising ground, and on the right a shrub or tree wherein a bird alights. The figure expresses eternal youth and beauty. The star is l'étoile flamboyante, which appears in Masonic symbolism and has been confused therein. That which the figure communicates to the living scene is the substance of the heavens and the elements. It has been said truly that the mottos of this card are waters of life freely and gifts of the spirit. The summary of several tawdry explanations says that it is a card of hope. Well, fuck off, it is a card of hope. On other planes, it has been certified as immortality and interior light. For the majority of prepared minds, the figure will appear as the type of truth unveiled, glorious in undying beauty, pouring on the waters of the soul some part and measure of her priceless possession. But she is in reality the great mother in the Kabbalistic Sephira Bina, which is supernal understanding, who communicates to the Sephiroth that are below in the measure that they can receive her influx. Excuse me. That's just a bunch of word salad to me, honestly. I mean, I do think it's significant that there are 8 stars, and they're all 8-pointed stars, and 17 adds to 8. Like, it's a numeric symbolism, and like the bird is important, the water's flowing, like whatever. I guess I'm basic according to A.E. Waite, but I do see it as a card of hope. The moon. The distinction between this card and some of the conventional types is that the moon is increasing on what is called the side of mercy, to the right of the observer. It has 16 chief and 16 secondary rays. Okay, so we're adding up to 32 here. The card represents life and the imagination apart from life of the spirit. The path between the towers is the issue into the unknown. The dog and wolf are the fears of the natural mind in the presence of that place of exit, when there is only reflected light to guide it. Okay. I never thought about like the fact that it's hard to go down this path by the light only of the moon. I wish this card were darker though, because it looks like a full sunlit day, you know? The last reference is a key to another form of symbolism. The intellectual light, okay, I just said that. Or did I? No, I didn't. The intellectual light is a reflection, and beyond it is the unknown mystery which it cannot shew forth. It illuminates our animal nature, types of which are represented below, the dog, the wolf, and that which comes up out of the depths, the nameless and hideous tendency which is lower than the savage beast. It strives to attain manifestation, symbolized by crawling from the abyss of water to the land, but as a rule it sinks back whence it came. The face of the mind directs a calm gaze upon the unrest below. The dew of thought falls. The message is, peace, be still, and it may be that there shall come a calm upon the animal nature, while the abyss beneath shall cease from giving up a form. Peace, be still. The sun. The naked child mounted on a white horse and displaying a red standard. Red standard. Guess that's what the flag is. Has been mentioned already as the better symbolism connected with this card. It is the destiny of the supernatural. Okay, this time it says supernatural, not supernal. So those are definitely different words. But more than that, I can't tell you. And the great and holy light which goes before the endless procession of humanity, coming out from the walled garden of the sensitive life and passing on the journey home. The card signifies, therefore, the transit from the manifest light of this world, represented by the glorious sun of earth, to the light of the world to come, which goes before aspiration and is typified by the heart of a child. But the last illusion is again the key to a different form or aspect of the symbolism. The sun is that of consciousness and the spirit, the direct as the antithesis of the reflected light. The characteristic type of humanity that has become a little child therein, a child in the sense of simplicity and innocence in the sense of wisdom. In that simplicity, he bears the seal of nature and of art. In that innocence, he signifies the restored world. When the self-knowing spirit has dawned in the consciousness above the natural mind, that mind, in its renewal, leads forth the animal nature in a state of perfect conformity. Okay. I don't know. The last judgment. I have said that this symbol is essentially invariable in all tarot sets, or at least the variations do not alter its character. The great angel is here encompassed by clouds, but he blows his bannered trumpet, and the cross, as usual, is displayed on the banner. The dead are rising from their tombs, a woman on the right, a man on the left, and between them their child, whose back is turned. But in this card, there are more than 3 who are restored, and it has been thought worthwhile to make this variation as illustrating the insufficiency of current explanations. It should be noted that all the figures are as one in the wonder, adoration, and ecstasy expressed by their attitudes. It is the card which registers the accomplishment of the great work of transformation in answer to the summons of the supernal, which summons is heard and answered from within. Here it is the intimation of a significance which cannot well be carried further in the present place. What is that within us which does sound a trumpet, and all that is lower in our nature rises in response, almost in a moment, almost in a twinkling of an eye? So that's interesting. The call is coming from inside the house, which is usually how I think of the Judgment card anyway. You are both the one that is calling, sounding the trumpet, and the one that is rising in response. Let the card continue to depict, for those who can see no further, the last judgment and the resurrection in the natural body. Okay, well, if you're seeing it as the last judgment and you think that that's a basic interpretation of this card, then why did you have it depicted that way? Why did you direct it to be depicted that way, if you think that's a basic explanation? I would have loved for this card not to look like so fucking religious. But let those who have inward eyes look and discover therewith. They will understand that it has been called truly in the past a card of eternal life, and for this reason it may be compared with that which passes under the name of Temperance. So, Judgment is actually just Temperance times 2. Temperance squared. The world. As this final message of the major trumps is unchanged, and indeed unchangeable in respect of its design, you may not show this in any other way. It has been partly described already regarding its deeper sense. It represents also the perfection and end of the cosmos, the secret which is within it, the rapture of the universe when it understands itself in God. It is further the state of the soul in the consciousness of divine vision, reflected from the self-knowing spirit. But these meanings are without prejudice to that which I have said concerning it on the material side. It has more than one message on the macrocosmic side, and is, for example, the state of the restored world when the law of manifestation shall have been carried to the highest degree of natural perfection. But it is perhaps more especially a story of the past, referring to that day when all was declared to be good, when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. One of the worst explanations concerning it is that the figure symbolizes the Magus when he has reached the highest degree of initiation. Another account says that it represents the Absolute, which is ridiculous. Then why are you telling us that? The figure has been said to stand for truth, which is, however, more properly allocated to the 17th card. Lastly, it has been called the Crown of the Magi. So he ends with, 3 or 4 explanations of what the card is not, which, that's what you're going to remember is the last thing he read, right? Oh, A.E. wait. I feel like you might be kind of dumb. Okay? You might be kind of dumb. That's all. Sorry about it. Okay. Here we go. Last one. With light step, as if earth and its trammels had little power to restrain him, a young man in gorgeous vestments pauses at the brink of a precipice among the great heights of the world. He surveys the blue distance before him, its expanse of sky rather than the prospect below. His act of eager walking is still indicated. Though he is stationary at the given moment, his dog is still bounding. The edge which opens on the depth has no terror. It is as if angels were waiting to uphold him, if it came about that he leaped from this height. His countenance is full of intelligence and expectant dream. He has a rose in one hand and in the other a costly wand. Costly? From which depends over his right shoulder a wallet curiously embroidered. Curiously embroidered. It looks like a little eagle face. He is a prince of the other world on his travels through this one, all amidst the morning glory in the keen air. The sun which shines behind him knows whence he came, whither he is going, and how he will return by another path after many days. He is the spirit in search of experience. It's the all-knowing sun, guys. That's what that is. Many symbols of the instituted mysteries are summarized in this card, which reverses, under high warrants, all the confusions that have preceded it. In his Manual of Cartomancy, Grand Orient has a curious suggestion. So Grand Orient is a name? This whole time when he's referred to Grand Orient, I thought he was just like referring generally to ideas of the East, maybe. Okay, but maybe not. I guess not. In his Manual of Cartomancy, Grand Orient has a curious suggestion of the office of Mystic Fool as a part of his process in higher divination, but it might call for more than ordinary gifts to put it into operation. We shall see how the card fares according to the common arts of fortune-telling, and it will be an example, to those who can discern, of the fact, otherwise so evident, that the trumps major had no place originally in the arts of psychic gambling, when cards are used as the counters and pretexts. What the fuck does that mean? Of the circumstances under which this art arose, we know, however, very little. The conventional explanations say that the fool signifies the flesh, the sensitive life, and by a peculiar satire its subsidiary name was at one time the alchemist, as depicting folly at the most insensate stage. Insensate. Fuck. Conclusion as to the greater keys. Okay, fine. I'll read it. There has been no attempt in the previous tabulation to present the symbolism in what is called the three worlds, that of divinity, of the macrocosm, and the microcosm. A large volume, so is that like as above, so below, and on earth? I don't know. A large volume would be required for developments of this kind. I have taken the cards on the high plane of their more direct significance to man, who in material life is on the quest of eternal things. The compiler of the Manual of Cartomancy has treated them under three headings: the world of human prudence, which does not differ from divination on its more serious side, the world of conformity, being the life of religious devotion, and the world of attainment, which is that of the soul's progress toward the term of its research. He gives also a triple process of consultation according to these divisions to which the reader is referred. I have no such process to offer, as I think that more may be gained by individual reflection on each of the trumps major. Okay, well that's nice. Inviting a little bit of your own interpretations of the cards. So this, at the time, this tarot deck might have been the least esoteric, most open to interpretation. Most loosey-goosey, I guess. Hippy-dippy, loosey-goosey. I have also not adopted the prevailing attribution of the cards to the Hebrew alphabet. Firstly, because it would serve no purpose in an elementary handbook. Secondly, because nearly every attribution is wrong. Finally, I have not attempted to rectify the position of the cards in their relation to one another. The 0, therefore, appears after number 20, but I have taken care not to number the world or universe otherwise than as 21. What? What does that mean? Wherever it ought to be put, the 0 is an unnumbered card. Okay, so put it anywhere. Of course, the fool can go anywhere. The fool is free to exist anywhere. In conclusion as to this part, I will give these further indications regarding the fool, which is the most speaking of all the symbols. The most speaking. He signifies the journey outward, the state of the first emanation, the graces and passivity of the spirit. His wallet is inscribed with dim signs, to shew that many subconscious memories are stored up in the soul. Okay, so now I have to make the decision, am I going to read the explanations for the minor arcana? Am I going to do it? Am I going to do it? I feel like it would be incomplete if I didn't, because I'm not one of those people that, I think that the minor arcana is important. Plus, these explanations are going to be a lot shorter. Okay, so in the book, I just want to note that they're listed backwards from king to ace, but I didn't put them in that order, so I'm just going to read them ace through king. But I'm flipping backwards in the book, just so you know. Ace. A hand issuing from a cloud grasps a stout wand or club. That's it. I'm not going to read the divinatory and reversed meanings, although they exist, for each card. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. Wouldn't be prudent. Okay. A tall man looks from a battle-minted roof over sea and shore. He holds a globe in his right hand, while a staff in his left rests on the battlement. Another is fixed in a ring. The rose and cross and lily should be noticed on the left side. A calm, stately personage with his back turned, looking from a cliff's edge at ships passing over the sea. 3 staves are planted in the ground, and he leans slightly on one of them. From the 4 great staves planted in the foreground, there is a great garland suspended. 2 female figures uplift nosegays. At their side is a bridge over a moat, leading to an old manorial house. Okay, so we're supposed to see these as 2 women. I did not know that. Not that it matters, because they can be anyone, but I assumed that this was supposed to be like a man and a woman getting married or some shit. But okay. They got their nosegays. They're ready to go. Maybe they're getting married to each other. Fuck yeah. A posse of youths. Posse, yes. Who are brandishing staves as if in sport or strife. It is mimic warfare and and here too correspond the divinatory meanings. It is mimic warfare. Okay, that's interesting, because that to me brings to mind, you know, how like animals will, you know, fake fight with each other to get ready for, like, you know, hunting prey. You know, it's pretending to fight in order to be ready to fight later on. That's an interesting, like, that's not the way that I've typically thought of that type of fighting, but yeah. A laureled horseman bears one staff adorned with a laurel crown. Laureled horseman, laurel crown. Laureled horseman, laurel crown. Okay, so the crown is on his head and on the staff, which I guess I didn't really, like, think about that before. Footmen with staves are at his side. There you go. I think some of these divinatory meanings are probably actually helpful, but, yeah, I don't know. A young man on a craggy eminence brandishing a staff. 6 other staves are raised toward him from below. It is a card of valor. 4 on the surface, 6 are attacking 1, who has, however, the vantage position. On the intellectual plane, it signifies discussion, wordy strife in business negotiations, war of trade, barter, and competition. It is further a card of success, for the combatant is on the top and his enemies may be unable to reach him. Okay, maybe I'm going to read the whole thing, but I'm not going to go back and do it with the other ones. God. The card represents motion through the immovable, a flight of wands through an open country, but they draw to the term of their course. That which they signify is at hand. It may be even on the threshold. Okay, I'm going to just kind of like I've done in previous videos in this series, like kind of skim through and just take out parts. Why didn't I do that with the major arcana? Would have been way shorter. 9 of Wands. The figure leans upon his staff and has an expectant look, as if awaiting an enemy. Behind are 8 other staves, erect in orderly disposition, like a palisade. Card signifies strength in opposition. If attacked, the person will meet an onslaught boldly. Too many L's. And his build shews that he may prove a formidable antagonist. He ready. Seeing all these, like, schmutzes on the cards. Schmutzes. A man oppressed by the weight of the 10 staves which he is carrying. A card of many significances, and some of the readings cannot be harmonized. I set aside that which connects it with honor and good faith. The chief meaning is oppression simply, but it is also fortune, gain, any kind of success, and then it is the oppression of these things. The oppression of success. Yeah, that makes sense. In a scene similar to the former, a young man stands in the act of proclamation. He is unknown but faithful, and his tidings are strange. Okay. All right. His tidings are strange. He is shewn as if upon a journey, armed with a short wand, and although mailed, is not on a warlike errand. Although mailed, as in M-A-I-L. He is passing mounds or pyramids. The motion of the horse is a key to the character of its rider and suggests the precipitate mood or things connected therewith. The mood of moving or being on the precipice of something, I guess. Precipitate mood. Whatever. The state of being on the precipice, maybe, is what that means. The wands throughout the suit are always in leaf, as it is a suit of life and animation. Emotionally and otherwise, the queen's personality corresponds to that of the king, but is more magnetic. A dark woman, country woman, friendly, chaste, loving, honorable. What? Why chaste? If the card... whatever. Anyway, that's it. That's it. The physical and emotional nature to which this card is attributed is dark, ardent, lithe, animated, impassioned, and noble. The king uplifts a flowering wand and wears, like his three correspondents in the remaining suits, what is called a cap of maintenance beneath his crown. Cap of maintenance? He connects with the symbol of the lion, which is emblazoned on the back of his throne. They all have this cap of maintenance? I don't see a cap of maintenance. Is that supposed to be the crown? What the fuck? I don't... I'm too dumb for this shit, guys. Alright. Now let's find Ace of Cups. The waters are beneath, and thereon are water lilies. The hand issues from the cloud, holding in its palm the cup from which 4 streams are pouring. A dove, bearing in its bill a cross-marked host, descends to place the wafer in the cup. See, this is just very religious, right? The fucking wafer, the dove, the wafer. The dew of water is falling on all sides. It is an intimation of that which may lie behind the lesser arcana. A youth and maiden are pledging one another, and above their cups rises the caduceus of Hermes, between the great wings of which there appears a lion's head. It is a variant of a sign which is found in a few old examples of this card. Some curious emblematical meanings are attached to it, but they do not concern us in this place. Okay. Then why did you put it there? Maidens in a garden ground with cups uplifted as if pledging one another. Okay, that's the entire explanation before divinatory meanings. All right. As if pledging one another. A young man is seated under a tree and contemplates 3 cups set on the grass before him. An arm issuing from a cloud offers him another cup. His expression, notwithstanding, is one of discontent with his environment. 5 of Cups. A dark cloaked figure looking sideways at 3 prone cups. 2 others stand up right behind him. A bridge is in the background leading to a small keep or holding. 3 have been taken, 2 are left. It is a card of inheritance, but not without bitterness or frustration. Again, it's like dirty fingerprints. Like, what did I do? Like, stick my fingers in the mud and then shuffle these cards? I don't think so. 6 of Cups. Children in an old garden, their cups filled with flowers. There you go. That's the explanation of that. Then the children are disporting in an unfamiliar precinct. Okay, whatever. Sorry guys, this is not the most thorough and awesome explanation. It is a real deep into the RWS, but it's not too good. It's a real deep, but not a real good. You know what I'm saying? Seven of Cups. Strange chalices of vision, but the images are more especially those of the fantastic spirit. Fairy favors, images of reflection, sentiment. I like that. Fairy favors. That's how I'm going to think of it. I'm going to think of it as gifts from fairies from now on. Eight of Cups. A man of dejected aspect is deserting the cups of his felicity, enterprise, undertaking, or previous concern. Cool. Nine of Cups. A goodly personage has feasted to his heart's content, and abundant refreshment of wine is on the arched counter behind him, seeming to indicate that the future is also assured. The picture offers the material side only, but there are other aspects. Appearance of cups in a rainbow. It is contemplated in wonder and ecstasy by a man and woman below. Might not be a man and woman. You know what I mean? Evidently, husband and wife. His right arm is about her. His left is raised upward. She raises her right arm. The two children dancing near them have not observed the prodigy, but are happy after their own manner. There is a home scene beyond. A fair, pleasing, somewhat effeminate page. Great. Of studious and intent aspect, contemplates a fish rising from a cup to look at him. It is the pictures of the mind taking form. It is the pictures of the mind taking form. Yes. All right, guys. I kind of want to stop. I just want to stop. Knight, graceful but not warlike, riding quietly, wearing a winged helmet, referring to those higher graces of the imagination which sometimes characterize this card. He too is a dreamer, but the images of the side of sense haunt him in his vision. He's haunted by good sense. Beautiful, fair, dreamy, as one who sees visions in a cup. Oh, I like that. I never thought about that, because I do think of the Queen of Cups as being like a fortune teller, but I didn't see it necessarily as like she might be scrying by looking into the cup at the water. Although this cup looks impenetrable to me. Like, how are you supposed to drink out of that? What the fuck is happening with that? What is that? That's some religious crap right there. This is, however, only one of her aspects. She sees, but she also acts, and her activity feeds her dream. He holds a short scepter in his left hand and a great cup in his right. His throne is set upon the sea. On one side a ship is riding, and on the other a dolphin is leaping. It doesn't look like a dolphin at all. That is not a dolphin. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to break it to you. A.E. Waite. That is just a fishy. It is not a dolphin. The implicit is that the sign of the cup naturally refers to water, which appears in all the court cards. You're reaching. You don't have anything to fucking say about the minor arcana. That's the problem. That's the problem. That's the problem with a lot of these so far, is that like people pay less attention in the guidebooks to the minor arcana, and I think that's wrong. It is just wrong. A hand issues from a cloud, grasping a sword, the point of which is encircled by a crown. Thank you. So most of these are just like explanations of what you see in the card, really. And of course I'm skipping over a lot of the like meaning stuff. Hoodwinked female figure balances two swords upon her shoulders. A hoodwinked? What does that mean? Conformity and the equipoise which it suggests. Courage, friendship, concord in the state of arms. Another reading gives tenderness, affection, and intimacy. The suggestion of harmony and other favorable readings must be considered in a qualified manner, as swords generally are not symbolical of beneficent forces in human affairs. Whatever, dude. 3 swords piercing a heart, the cloud and rain behind. Awesome. The effigy of a knight in the attitude of prayer at full length upon his tomb. Vigilance, retreat, solitude, hermit's repose. A disdainful man looks after 2 retreating and dejected figures. Their swords lie upon the ground. He carries 2 others on his left shoulder, and a 3rd sword is in his right hand, point to earth. He is the master in possession of the field. A ferryman carrying passengers in his punt to the further shore. The course is smooth, and seeing that the freight is light, it may be noted that the work is not beyond his strength. Seven of Swords. A man in the act of carrying away 5 swords rapidly. The 2 others of the card remain stuck in the ground. A camp is close at hand. Divinatory meanings: design, attempt, wish, hope, confidence, also quarreling, a plan that may fail, and annoyance. The design is uncertain in its import because the significations are widely at variance with each other. Okay, there. A woman bound and hoodwinked. What does that mean? Does hoodwinked mean like blindfolded? Maybe? That's what I'm guessing, because she was blindfolded in the 2 and she was called hoodwinked as well. With the swords of the card about her, yet it is rather a card of temporary durance than of irretrievable bondage. Nine of Swords. One seated on her couch in lamentation, with the swords over her. Couch? Maybe bed used to be called couch. I don't know. She is as one who knows no sorrow, which is like unto hers. It is a card of utter desolation. No one has suffered what I have suffered. 10 of Swords. A prostrate figure pierced by all the swords belonging to the card. Whatsoever is intimated by the design, also pain, affliction, tears, sadness, and desolation, is not especially a card of violent death. Okay, well, good. I'm glad for that. Page of Swords, a lithe, active figure, holds a sword upright in both hands while in the act of swift walking. Okay, I thought he was posing, but all right. He is passing over rugged land, and about his way the clouds are collocated wildly. He is alert and alive, looking this way and that as if an expected enemy might appear at any moment. I think he's dancing. Knight of Swords, this is my card of the day. He is riding in full course as if scattering his enemies. In the design, he is really a prototypical hero of romantic chivalry. He might also be Galahad, whose sword is swift and sure because he is clean of heart. Clean of heart. Yep, that's what I think of the Knight of Swords. Clean of heart. Queen of Swords. Her right hand raises the weapon vertically and the hilt rests on an arm of her royal chair. The left hand is extended, the arm raised. Her countenance is severe but chastened. It suggests familiarity with sorrow. It does not represent mercy, and her sword notwithstanding, she is scarcely a symbol of power. Fuck you. Fuck you, A.E. Waite. She is totally a symbol of power. Divinatory meanings, widowhood, female sadness, and embarrassment. Wow. A.E. Waite has a hatred for the Queen of Swords and the Empress. King of Swords. He sits in judgment holding the unsheathed sign of his suit. He recalls, of course, the conventional symbol of justice in the trumps major, and he may represent this virtue, but he is rather the power of life and death in virtue of his office. Whatsoever arises out of the idea of judgment and all its connections, power, command, authority, militant, law, offices, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Again, there's like these dirty things. Okay, I need to not be distracted by stupid shit. Okay, time for the Pentacles. Everyone is so relieved. A hand, issuing as usual from a cloud, holds up a pentacle. He could not be bothered with writing the explanation of the Ace of Pentacles. Could not be bothered at all. A young man in the act of dancing has a pentacle in either hand, and they are joined by that endless cord, which is like the number 8 reversed. Three of Pentacles. A sculptor at his work in a monastery. Compare the design which illustrates the 8 of Pentacles. The apprentice or amateur therein has received his reward and is now at work in earnest. So are we supposed to see them as going from the king to the ace? So the higher numbers are actually the lower, like you go through, I don't know. Four of Pentacles. A crowned figure having a pentacle over his crown clasped another with hands and arms, 2 pentacles under his feet. He holds to that which he has. Surety of possessions, cleaving to that which one has. Cleaving. 5 of Pentacles. 2 mendicants in a snowstorm. I have no idea what that word means. Pass a lighted casement. The card foretells material trouble above all, whether in the form illustrated, that is destitution, or otherwise. For some cartomancists, it is a card of love and lovers, wife, husband, friend, mistress, also concordance and affinities. These alternatives cannot be harmonized. Again, it just feels like he's saying, some people see it like this, but that's not right. But then at another point he was like, leaving space for your interpretations. Or maybe I just don't understand what the fuck he's saying. And I'm not the person for this. She says an hour and a half in. 6 of Pentacles. A Persian in the guise of a merchant weighs money in a pair of scales and distributes it to the needy and distressed. It is a testimony to his own success in life as well as to his goodness of heart. See, I hate that shit. I hate that shit. This is not my 6 of Pentacles. 7 of Pentacles. A young man leaning on his staff looks intently at 7 pentacles attached to a clump of greenery on his right. One would say that these were his treasures and that his heart was there. These are exceedingly contradictory in the main. It is a card of money, business, and barter. Blah, 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 blah. 8 of Pentacles. An artist in stone at his work, which he exhibits in the form of trophies. I didn't see that as trophies. May also signify the possession of skill. Which, yeah, that's how most people see it. See if he has disdain for the 9 of Pentacles. A woman with a bird upon her wrist stands amidst a great abundance of grapevines in the garden of a manorial house. It is a wide domain suggesting plenty in all things. Possibly it is her own possession and testifies to material well-being. Possibly. Possibly it's her fucking garden, you know? Maybe. I don't know. Women usually can't fucking figure that shit out themselves, but maybe it is in this case. I'm probably like reading too much sexism into this, but a man and woman beneath an archway which gives entrance to a house and domain. They are accompanied by a child who looks curiously at 2 dogs accosting an ancient personage seated in the foreground. The dogs are accosting the old guy. The child's hand is on one of them. Wonderful, wonderful. So enlightening. Just describe the symbolism. Don't describe what. Just describe what's there. Don't describe what's in it or anything. Like, God. Page of Pentacles. A youthful figure looking intently at the pentacle which hovers over his raised hands. He moves slowly, insensible of that which is about him. Insensible? Knight of Pentacles, he rides a slow, enduring, heavy horse to which his own aspect corresponds. He exhibits his symbol, but does not look therein. What does that mean? Queen of Pentacles. The face suggests that of a dark woman whose qualities might be summed up in the idea of greatness of soul. She has also the serious cast of intelligence. She contemplates her symbol and may see worlds therein. So whenever it says, what does it mean when it says something about a dark woman or whatever? Like, I used to think it was like dark in skin tone is what they were meaning, or dark hair, I guess it could mean that. Or does it just mean dark as in like contemplative and depressed? I don't know what dark means in this context. She contemplates her symbol and may see worlds therein. I think I already said that, but whatever. King of Pentacles. The figure calls for no special description. The face is rather dark, suggesting also courage. Face is rather dark. So maybe it does mean like just kind of like somber expression. Maybe that's what that means. Suggesting also courage, but somewhat lethargic in tendency. The bull's head should be noted as a recurrent symbol on the throne. The sign of this suit is represented throughout as engraved or emblazoned with the pentagram, typifying the correspondence of the four elements in human nature and that by which they may be governed. In many old tarot packs, this suit stood for current coin, money, and deniers. I have not invented the substitution of pentacles, and I have no special cause to sustain in respect of the alternative, but the consensus of divinatory meanings is on the side of some change, because the cards do not happen to deal especially with questions of money. Okay. So, what else? What else do we have here? The greater arcana and their divinatory meanings. Okay, so now there's a whole other section in the book with more keywords for each of the majors, and then followed, yes, and then followed by more keywords, a little section of keywords for the minor arcana. Seven of Wands, a dark child. Okay, some additional meanings. What's here with your additional meanings? The recurrence of cards in dealing, in the nature, the natural position. Okay, so like 4 kings in a reading would mean great honor. Okay, so that's just more ways to read the cards, I guess. Art of Tarot Divination. We come now to the final and practical part of this division of our subject, being the way to consult and obtain oracles by means of tarot cards. Well, yeah, that's what we're doing here. Whatever, I'm not reading that. I don't know why I'm going through the end of the book and reading what the sections are. There's a description of the Celtic cross. There's also some other spreads, which they're not calling them spreads, they're calling them an alternative method of reading the tarot cards. It is well at the beginning of a reading to run through the cards quickly so that the mind may receive a general impression of the subject. Okay, well, duh. Then there's a bibliography. And that's it. Okay, so we did it. We did not read this whole book, but we kinda did it. I don't know. What do you guys think? I feel like this, I mean, at least this served for me as okay, now I've kind of read this. So at least it did that. Now I feel like I've sort of read the pictorial key to the tarot. Like, yeah, I didn't read the whole goddamn thing, but I sort of read the whole goddamn thing. And I've spent enough time with this that, like, I do like to give, I guess sorry, I'm not very consistent with this series, but like I want to mostly have these serve as a review and then a deep dive into the guidebook. So as far as like a review of the RWS, it's weird to review that because it's sort of the big tarot deck. You know, there's Thoth and there's RWS and there's Marseille. Those are the big three, and this is the only one of the big three that I do have the Trionfi della Luna Marseille deck, but I don't have the Thoth, and because it upsets me. I don't know, maybe someday I'll be ready for it, but I'm not ready for it at this point. So it's weird to do a review of it. I mean, I use it all the time. It was the tarot deck that kind of unlocked tarot for me, as is the story. You know, a lot of tarot readers will have that same story, that like that was the one that they started with. I avoided it for a really long time because I didn't like the artwork. And, you know, I'm kind of kicking myself about that now because I've only really started learning tarot the last 3 years. Whereas, like, I've always had tarot decks in my possession, but they've always been, like, weird Lo Scarabeo decks, you know, that didn't have the sort of RWS symbolism in them. Like, I didn't have a single deck that had that kind of symbolism in it until I was gifted Tarot of the Cat People, which I wouldn't say is an RWS clone or anything, but it's got a lot of similar symbolism in it. But that was the first deck that kind of drew from the RWS. So, and that was what, I mean, I got to a point where, like, there are so many images in this deck that I don't like, and it's a very dude-heavy deck, and it's very religious looking. Like, overall, like, if I'm, like, reviewing this deck, like, aesthetically, I still don't love it. I have accepted it, and I can find beauty within it, and it doesn't really, like, I don't really think to myself, oh god, that's an ugly card, because it's so much a part of my brain, these cards, that I view them positively, despite the fact that aesthetically, I do think most of the imagery is kind of ugly. But that's nothing to say against Pamela Coleman Smith, because, like, I still haven't read her, like, biography either that came with this commemorative set, but I would love to read more about her life. I just haven't sat down and done it. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'd really have nothing to say except, you know, my review of the RWS is that I use it all the time. It's really, it's a basic. It's an essential, and it's a basic, and I use it all the time, and I think that it really did, you know, it is the tarot that ushered in the modern era of tarot, being the last, you know, 110 years of tarot. It started that. It is very important in that sense. And that doesn't mean that, like, if you're watching this and you don't have, you know, a version of this deck because you don't want it, you don't need it. I don't think you need it. For me, I needed it because it's so clearly, it's just extremely clear. You know, you look at the image, you don't necessarily need a guidebook. You look at this imagery and you can kind of see it, you know? You could see what's happening in the cards, particularly with the minor arcana. You can see what's happening in the cards. You can figure it out. You don't necessarily need a guidebook. And as far as my review of the Pictorial Key to the Tarot, I don't know, 2 out of 10, I guess, because it does explain a little bit of, like, where weight was coming from in the symbolism of the cards, but it really doesn't do that great of a job. Like, if you want to really unpack the symbolism within the RWS, like, I haven't read a ton of tarot books, but, like, as far as from what I've read, I would recommend 78 Degrees of Wisdom by Rachel Pollack instead of this. I don't think that this is essential reading at all. Like, I'm glad that I did, just because it was the guide written by A.E. Waite. So I'm glad that I experienced it. I don't know if I will keep it now that I've actually looked into it, and I don't think I'll refer back to it. I mean, this would be something that I would keep just because, hey, I've got the pictorial key to the tarot. But why do I need to keep it just to say I have it? You know? So I might actually, like, get this out of my life now that I've kind of dove into it to a certain extent. Yeah, anyway, thank you guys for watching. You guys are the best, and I can't believe that if you're at this point that you sat through all of this, but thank you, and I will let you go about your day doing much more fulfilling things, I'm sure. Okay.